Hello and welcome to flatcapeurotalk, and this is going to be a UCL group predictions breakdown, and I'm going to be joined by some very expert analysis in Darius from Paxton Road. He honestly killed it in our Group 6 top predictions video as well. If you haven't seen that, there will be a link for that in the video at some point. But Darius, how you doing, and are you ready to break down these Champions League predictions?
I'm so happy I'm not on Paxton Road today. I cannot lie to you. After what happened on the weekend, Euro talk, flat cap Euro talk, and just talking Euro in general for European football is what I need. Just to sort of detox. I saw Haaland score 2 goals, get an assist on the weekend. So that sort of eased my conscience. Ronaldo double on his debut. That sort of eased my bad feelings. But being on this channel, back where it is with the main man himself, this is really the rehab I needed. So I'm looking forward to it. And you know what? We've got a very, very, very good Champions League group stage to sort of dig into as well. So
and with the very fresh intro, of course, as credit to Hotspur TV, you know, finally the intro and the music and all of it all is just giving me the hype. 100%. It's giving me the feelings as well. So why not just crack into it? In this one, guys, these are not actually, you know, the list of the orders. This is actually how I think the groups will finish out. These are my predictions for the UCL, how I think the groups will finish after all of the games. I think, you know, as we all know, it's about 9 games played between each other for these groups. So Darius basically is going to be my partner in crime and basically either agreeing with me or maybe, you know, being a bit neutral or even taking me down on some of these predictions here. But we're just going to crack into it on Group F. And that is going to be the one now with Mr. Kron himself, Mr. Cristiano Ronaldo. I think Manchester United are just an easy slot for #1. It seems like with Ronaldo, for me, Darius, for me, he's the best Champions League player of all time. Probably there will be no better other, I think, ever. I think he's just solidified himself as the best UCL player of all time. He's broken his own goal scoring record multiple times. The man is just a machine in the Champions League. And I feel like with that means Man United are just an instant #1 finish in Group F.
I mean, again, before I did a prediction before Ronaldo had joined Man United, and I still had them to win this group. I just think that with somebody
solidifies it even more than
like with the guy's nickname is literally Mr. Champions League. When you have somebody like that who and I know himself, he wants to win another one. I think that'll be number 6 for him in his career. I think 4 at Real Madrid, 1 at United. So it'll be number 6 for him if he can win it. I think that is a record for most won as well, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So he's hungry for sort of glory, and what better way to win it at the club that gave him the start of his amazing career. So I can't see any other sort of result. Again, the depth of their squad as well will help. They brought on players like Lingard, Van der Beek, Martial against who did they play on the weekend? Oh my God, it's gone out of my head.
They just Newcastle, yeah.
Yeah, they brought those players on, and sort of the level in their football it didn't drop. It almost seemed to improve. So I just think with the depth of their squad and the players that they've got, they all are desperate to play on the biggest stage of them all, and what better way? So I'm gonna say I agree. And Atalanta, I also agree, will probably finish second, just because I think Villarreal, while they're a very, very difficult team to play against, as Man United previously know from obviously last year, I just think that if you've got attack versus defense in sort of a competition like this, where you've got only 6 games to sort of make a difference, and then you've got the group stages, I just think if you're going to attack and you're potentially likely to score more goals, I think you're in a better position to win your group, or to be in the top 2 of your group. So I'm going to say that I probably 100% agree with all of those decisions, and I think that Atalanta will probably do just as well, maybe if not better, given the fact that
they have some UCL experience that we're probably even
they seem to have some
about.
experience now. So I think that they'll probably be able to get past the group stage. I think they got to the quarterfinals, so they might not do better than the quarterfinals. Was it 2 years ago or last year that they got to the quarterfinals? Yeah,
so correct. During the first season of COVID.
Yeah. So I don't think they'll do as well, but to get out the group stages and maybe get past the round of 16, that's really good for a team like Atalanta. So yeah, I think Group F, you've got it pretty much spot on. I'm gonna have to agree with you.
You're kind of reminding me, unfortunately, of that horrible loss that they had to PSG. I believe Atalanta, right? They had that. Yeah. They could have taken PSG, and I remember that was during that, the COVID pandemic. You know, the first part of it, where you know the Champions League was delayed, I think, until late summer. Practically, it was,
and they were hit very, very bad as well in Bergamo, especially for COVID. So
Yeah, it's just, but like you maybe are saying, it's just Atalanta maybe are just not a team to be sniffed at. Now they have even a bit more Champions League experience, not only with their players, but with Gasperini himself. He even has a bit more Champions League experience. Villarreal, I think they even would almost prefer to be maybe back in the Europa League. I feel like, being in the Champions League is a bit too much of a test for them. It's not like, of course they're going to go for the best, finish possible, but they did win, of course, the Europa League champions as well, the reigning champions. And it just seems like maybe Unai Emery, he's part of that, even that Sevilla system of, racking up all those Europa Leagues. It's practically his competition. He probably goes through the drive-through, orders Europa League trophy kind of guy. But as well, I would say Villarreal with the Spanish league, with La Liga, not a lot of transfers apart from Atletico Madrid have really gone to La Liga. Villarreal have not necessarily upgraded their squad simply because they're not in the financial state really to do so. Even one of the signings they did make, Danjuba, I believe his name was, from Bournemouth, kind of questioned that signing. He did score in his debut, but I do still kind of question that signing. And Atalanta, I would say, I think they've actually made some significant upgrades in the season past, in last season's past as well. And this season, bringing in Coop Miners, who knows how instantly, I know he's going to hit the ground running at some point, but if he does it by the Champions League stage, I mean, honestly, Atalanta is not a team to be sniffed at. Moving on to Group G, I would say Sevilla and Wolfsburg. This is actually, the top three here are quite tough, but maybe I might even correct myself here and maybe say with Wolfsburg, they're doing fantastic in the Bundesliga so far under Mark van Bommel. Did not actually anticipate that. I even actually had him as one of my managers to sack. I actually thought he was going to get sacked. And Wolfsburg are looking fantastic. Lucas and Mecca, the former Man City prospect, also very talented German under 23 star. I think under 21 still, actually. He's doing fantastic. Obviously, I think his name is they have Kevin Mbabu, but then there's another one, Baku, I believe, who's also on the right wing for them at Wolfsburg. There's just tons of young German talent, as well as obviously Mbabu, the Swiss talent at Wolfsburg. They still have Wout Weghorst. I just feel like maybe Wolfsburg are a stronger team than people will give them credit for. It's kind of a long time since they've been back in the Champions League. I feel like the last time I saw them was during that Julian Draxler kind of era there. And so Sevilla and Wolfsburg are my top two finishers. I might actually correct myself now and maybe say Wolfsburg could possibly take, maybe the first place position. But Sevilla are, as we know, a very experienced team in either the Europa League or the Champions League. But how do you feel like this, Darius? Would you put Sevilla first, Wolfsburg second, or maybe Lille? But Lille have not started off strong either, though.
Lille have been poor, to be fair. Again, I think I had hopes for Salzburg, but then I completely forgot that Jesse March is now Leipzig manager. So I think that Salzburg are going to struggle. They lost, obviously.
And they lost. Go on.
Sabazlai went earlier and Hwang Hee-chan went earlier, but I'm saying they've not really got
many. They lost.
Daka went as well. That was the person I was thinking of as well. Yeah, so I think it's going to be hard for Salzburg. And again, Lille as well. I just think that losing all of the players that they've lost and their manager, who I think Christophe Galtier is one of the best managers in Europe, really and truly, I think that they're going to struggle. So
free fall, yeah.
To be fair, I call this the hipster group because it's sort of like it's teams that you like but aren't amazing. And I know Wolfsburg and Sevilla have done well, especially Wolfsburg because they finished third last season. Sevilla have been consistent Champions League team now and have actually done quite well in the Champions League. But Wolfsburg, I'm interested to see. Like you said, I've just seen their squad and they've got good players sort of going through that team. Like if you've got Max Sanz-Lacroix at the back, he's started off this season very, very well. Yeah. He's been really good. And then if you've got someone like Wout Weghorst sort of carrying that line forward, I think you put yourself in a good stead to do okay. I mean, those two players alone, a good centre-back, partnered, Kevin Casteels in goal. I'm not too sure on their midfield, actually. I've not really paid attention.
Zaber Schlager and Maximilian Arnold, I'll provide you right now. I actually really rate those guys. I actually think it's one of the most underrated, maybe I would say like a poor man's midfield. If you were to find one, that would be one of the best ones, I would say. Zaber Schlager and Maximilian Arnold. And I think Gila Bogi, I'm not sure if he's still there. Maybe they've replaced him with someone else. He's been there a long time. But Maximilian Arnold and Zaber Schlager, the Austrian international, honestly, I really do rate him, Schlager. And Maximilian Arnold is like, I don't know, he's just kind of like a one club man, I'm pretty sure, for Wolfsburg as well. They're very, very technically sound. Schlager is more the box to box, where like Maximilian Arnold, I think, as you well know, is maybe more that distributor, kind of that tempo setter in the midfield, kind of like a Danny Parejo. I've actually related him to before.
He's really tenacious as well. I mean, I've not been I just remember Maximilian Arnold from FIFA. It's so bad to say that, but like I hate when people say that. But I just remember him being at Wolfsburg and being that guy, and I remember him scoring an absolute worldie of.
No, he's capable of bangers.
Absolutely
capable of bangers.
He's sort of got that game changer. I sort of compare him to sort of Ilicic. I know he's only 27, but I feel like they both have that X factor where you can sort of change the game using your talent. And I just think that when you have sort of established players going through your team, you stead yourself in a good position. So again, I think we're 2 for 2 on predictions in terms of.
Would you say maybe Salzburg and Lille? Would you switch those two? Maybe actually Salzburg might take that Europa League spot, because obviously, we must be said, the third spot is still important because that's who gets Europa League.
Yeah, I think it will make a difference. I think if Lille go down into Europa League, I think they'd probably. I think they're going to be. I think if they get third, they'll bin off the La Liga, because I don't think any French teams are really going to care
rating
about
themselves.
Do you know what I mean? Like Mbappe, literally not caring if he's still scoring goals a game. 4-0 against Clermont. PSG don't look like they're going to.
Clermont are actually one of the better teams this season as well, which is
Hakimi. Oh gosh, it's ridiculous what they're doing. So I think to get third place for Lille's sake would probably be very, very beneficial for them, because if they can go and win that Europa, or at least put up a good challenge, and might be a bit salvation from what I think is going to be a pretty bad season this season for them. So yeah.
I may just correct myself again here. I'm actually going to go, even though I made these a while ago, I'm going to put Wolfsburg at first, Sevilla at second, and I'm actually going to move Salzburg up to third, and actually Lille, I think, are going to drop out entirely. But that is actually a bit of a crazy one, I will admit.
I also am a fan of, by the way, Thomas Delaney going to Sevilla, which went quite under the radar.
Very under the radar.
Window. I think that they're building a very, very, very decent midfield. I mean, if you've got Rakitic, Delaney, and I think they obviously have Papu Gomez is there as well, isn't he? He can play just in front of them. That's, again, we're talking about underrated
Campos is a classy striker as well.
I mean, they kept Koundé as well, you forget. So I think that'll be a decent group. I think, you know what it'll be? It'll be one of those groups where there's not many points probably between all of the teams, and it might go down to the last 2 days. You might see like a 7-7, 7-4 going into the last days. So you never know what's going to happen.
That's a really good shout, actually. The 7-7. I love those kind of groups as well, especially in, like you said, the hipster group, right? There's no better way to finish it. That's a hipster kind of finish, I would say. But moving on to Group H, Chelsea, I think, we can kind of gloss over, obviously, UCL champions. I feel like they're not in a very tough group. Maybe what we could touch on is actually Juventus, who've actually struggled this season. I feel like Massimiliano Allegri, the reason I even had him in our, UCL or in our Europe's top 6 predictions, I had him, winning the league just because I have a bit of a crush on him and his Italian accent, but also in just the fact that I think he is a very classy manager, and he's actually not started off well at all. I mean, there's no sugarcoating it. He has not started off well at all, and it's a bit concerning. So maybe he might have to make up for, this kind of loss in form in Serie A and kind of go for it in the Champions League, to say. So I feel like Juventus will still finish second, but maybe what I might ask you, Darius, do you feel like Juventus might struggle? Maybe Malmo or Zenit can maybe cause an upset here?
I genuinely agree with you. I struggle to see, and again, it's not their team, but like I haven't watched Juventus this season, so I'm not actually sure what the main issue is, but I struggle to see where they're going to improve or sort of get the sort of motivation of that burst to sort of improve their form, because when I see somebody like Ronaldo, he obviously didn't start their game, and I know he was sorting out the transfer and stuff, but if he was in that team, I would say, oh, that's an X factor. Sort of like Dortmund with Haaland. It's like, even if they weren't doing great, they've got that player who's going to be able to make a difference. They have a lot of good players, but I just think there's a lot of inexperience. And does Allegri work well with that sort of inexperience? And I think the players that he's going to rely on, i.e. maybe his Chiellini's and Szczesny's. Szczesny, I think, as a keeper will be fine, but Chiellini, who's 36, 37 now, I don't know. Yeah, it's again, he's a glorious centre-back, and proven his age. Well, age doesn't matter in the Euros.
He's proven it since he's been 34, it feels 100%, like. 100%.
But I just think that when you're playing teams, for example, like PSG, where you have players like Mbappe, there's nothing you can do as a 36, 37-year-old centre-back to sort of combat players like Mbappe. If Poch is smart, and if they ever came up against it, and I mean Chelsea in their group, I don't think they'll beat Chelsea at the Allianz Stadium or at Stamford Bridge. I think if you want to talk about surprises, not them finishing third will be the surprise, but I think they'll probably lose one of their games to Malmo or Zenit. And I think they'll lose both of their games to Chelsea. I actually see Chelsea winning every single game and probably maybe only conceding to Juve. That's how good I think Chelsea are. And after I saw Lukaku's performance on the weekend against Villa and sort of the goals he was scoring, somebody said on Twitter, he's sort of creating chances. Sorry, he's scoring from chances that shouldn't have even had goal scoring opportunities in them. And last season, Chelsea were missing big chances. That was their main thing. So they sort of almost tipped their whole issue on a 180. So I just think that is going to be too much for any of those teams in that group to handle. So I think, again, there's not going to be any surprises, but I do think the Juve aren't going to have a very, very comfortable group. Definitely not, because what is going on? I don't know if you've watched him, but it's really, really sad.
I've seen a little bit of it. What I would actually describe, it's, Atletico are actually they're kind of similar to Juventus, where I feel like Atletico is, every single game I've watched them, they've gotten these breaks where, gifts have just been put to them where they've actually saved results. I mean, just even today with Espanyol, I mean, the fact that, they were 1-1 with Espanyol, and Espanyol had multiple chances to actually win the game, you might say. And then Atletico just somehow pulled out a win out of nowhere, it felt like, in this game. And it just, Atletico and Juventus, I feel like, are having somewhat similar seasons, whereas Atletico, I would say, has a much stronger squad. But they're kind of, I don't know what it is. It's, star talent, big players even leaving as well. And you just feel like, this is the right opportunity for both of these teams to do well. But it seems like Juventus, they're just not getting those lucky breaks that I've been seeing Atletico get. And so they've been punished for it. And I think, they, in a way, from what I've seen them play, they deserve some of these performances that they've been handed. I mean, there's not been really any chance creations. Even when you watch the highlights, there's not really very much that even seems to have happened in some of them. I've seen Juventus play their games, but even when I rewatched it with the highlights, it was like, yeah, that's actually right. Not a lot really happened on Juventus' side, which is just interesting. It really is interesting. But maybe moving on to these lesser known teams, in the case of Malmo, from Sweden, of course, they actually had a fantastic UCL run, right, where they're part of one of those teams that have to maybe earn their way even further into the UCL groups. They had, I forget which teams they had to beat in order to get there, but they actually had a pretty spectacular route into the Champions League qualification. And so I actually think with I forget which teams they knocked out, but I think there was a decent one at the end. And so with Malmo, I'm actually, with that form in mind, I'm actually going to put them at third for the Europa League. But Zenit, there's one player there that I do know about that I've always really rated, because I only saw him once or twice play in the Europa League. But those 2 games I saw him play, he was absolutely immense. He's known as the Iranian Messi. I feel like that's a bit, kind of mistaken, because I think he's like 6'3", so it's he might be a full foot taller than Messi, so it seems a bit weird to call him that. But Sardar Azmoun is his name at Zenit, and I would say if Zenit were to take the third spot, it might be because of that guy, just Sardar Azmoun, and the very pre-Cold War, or even, Cold War striker, and Artem Dajuba, that guy. Sardar Azmoun and him are actually hilarious front two, I will admit. Very, very fun to watch. So if Malmo don't make it to that Europa League spot, I could see it being Zenit. But despite how poor Juventus have been, I don't see them dropping. I think it's actually quite an easy group for them, luckily. And even for Malmo and Zenit, you might say there might even be a bit lucky, because they're going to be battling for these Europa League games. So this could actually be a bit more interesting than we think, because Zenit and Malmo both have good opportunities to get to the Europa League.
I'm really happy about this third place Europa League spot sort of being a thing now, because it breeds confidence. Because I understand if you've got a group like Group G,
right,
you all have a chance to sort of get into the top 2 and get into the knockout stages. But I think as Malmo and Zenit would realistically see their situation, they're not going to, probably, unless they go on one of those glorious dream-like runs in the Champions League, they're not going to really look to get past the group stages. So if they can get a third place spot and really go for that Europa League, who's to say that they can't do well in that? And
those games between each other might actually be a lot better than maybe people might think on paper.
100%, because I think that will probably be first and second will probably be sorted before the last match day. So I think that will probably be the deciding sort of factor of that group in the last match day. So yeah, I mean, it gives everybody a reason to sort of stay entertained, and I'm going to definitely watch out for Azmoun and Dajuba, because Dajuba, like you said, he's a throwback. He is a definite throwback.
He's a behind the Iron Curtain striker, is what I would say. But moving on to Group C, Group D, and Group E. Group C is a bit of an interesting one, and I'll maybe give you guys a bit of a recap on some of these teams in case you don't know. Sporting did win Liga NOS, or the Portuguese Champions League last
season. Did they actually do it unbeaten, or did they actually lose in the end?
I'm not sure actually. I didn't even know that, if whether it went unbeaten, but there's just one player that I'm absolutely obsessed with over there, and that's Pedro Gonçalves. That's Pedro Gonçalves. He's an absolute baller. I feel like, of course, I don't want to relate too many things to Spurs, but, we were kind of hyping up, the Carlos Vinicius for, being top scorer one season with 18 goals in Liga NOS. Carlos Gonçalves, whatever he is, I think 21, 22 years old. He finished last season with like 24 goals, in Liga NOS as a number 10, really, as like a right winger, number 10 kind of player. Honestly, he was Sporting's best player last season. Some have even said he's actually a bit better than even Bruno Fernandes. They think that he was kind of the one that, was actually that's why they even sold him, is just because they knew they had that replacement in Gonçalves. I think that might be stretching it a bit, but I do rate him actually that highly. I would say I don't think he's better by any means than Fernandes, but all I would say is, he's a world-class player that's just waiting to be snapped up. But still, despite how much I hyped up Sporting there, I do see them maybe trying to go for probably a Europa League spot here, and maybe challenging with the Turkish league winners, the Turkish Super League winners from last season, the champions in Besiktas. I'm not too sure, actually, about any of Besiktas's players this season. I do apologize, but I do think kind of similar to maybe Malmo and Zenit, it's going to be a very, very interesting battle for these Europa League spots in Group C, don't you think?
I mean, the reason I'm going to be watching Group C is because my heart lies with the great yellow team on there, and they are definitely going to finish first because there's a certain man on that team. There's a lot of players on that team which are going to make a big difference. But the new Mr. Champions League, as some people are calling him, and in my opinion, somebody who potentially actually could break Ronaldo's record for most goals scored in the competition. When you've got someone like Haaland on your team, you can really, in my opinion, they can go as far as they want to. And if they want to have a sort of a dream run, maybe like an Atalanta, even like us, for example, because again, not many people really thought we were going to get to the final. I definitely think that they can do it. I think Dortmund could honestly get to the final if they wanted to, and if they played out their skin, and if they sort of have the luck of the draw as well. But I'm not going to get over excited. If Haaland is injured, then again, I sort of completely take back what I say there. But for me, I talk about hipster groups and all. This again, when you got Ajax and Dortmund in the same group, oh my gosh, that is like the ultimate hipster matchup. Like I've never ever heard of a more hipster lineup than Ajax versus Dortmund. And honestly, I hope there are fans for both of those games because they could be real. There'll
be bangers. More neutral hipster fans even than the actual home fans.
It'll be a banger. Like I said, if I could get a ticket to go to Germany or Amsterdam, I'm definitely going to see that game. So I definitely won't be able to get a ticket. But that's the sort of excitement those sort of games bring me in. There's so many individuals in each team that you can sit and watch and say, yeah, they're there for the future, or they're just a player that you really like. And then both the managers as well, Erik ten Hag and Marco Rose, will both put on a show for both games. So I think you know what, I really do think that Sporting could actually do
steal this away, maybe. Yeah.
I think they could finish second. I'm not going to say they are. I will agree with you and say that Ajax will stay there, just because I think the pedigree of them being in Europe and actually having, like you said, a manager who knows how to get all the way to the semi-finals will help them get over that line. But I think that Sporting team is really, really good. I mean, I think they make the Sarabia signing or loan signing.
Oh my gosh, you're a genius. This is why we love Darius, everybody. And as we know, everybody, the description is down below for Paxton Road as well. As you well know, the description will be there for the link for Paxton Road. But Darius, this is why I love you. You're an absolute genius. He did move from PSG to on a loan. Yeah, on a loan. Okay, cool. I remember Doogie Critchley saying it. So it's actually, and he even said it was actually a clever signing when you think about it, because he did actually decently in the likes of PSG, but he's just gotten outclassed, outwaged by the wages alone.
Didn't get any game time really. He was always coming off the bench, wasn't he, and making an impact off the bench as well. I always seem to notice Sarabia either scoring or contributing when he came off the bench. So yeah, I just remember seeing that rumor on Twitter and thinking that'll be actually all right if that actually happens. So and I definitely know that the Wolves left back, I forgot his name now. He was a backup left back. It's Ruben something. It's gone out of my head. I know that he's joined as well, but they lost Mendes to PSG, so that's going to be a big miss. But again, I think that they could. All of those games will be fun. Even Besiktas, I think Besiktas will be a good game for everyone.
Turkey's not an easy place to play, especially in the Champions League.
And if, like you said, if the fans are there, then that's going to be a very, very difficult place to go to. So again, the groups are really, really, really good this season. And then I honestly believe that every single one of those games will be fun. So I'm going to agree with you again. Sadly, Jack, we seem to have to agree on them all. But yeah, I can't really see any other thing happening in this group. But hopefully, Dortmund, please.
Maybe we could just touch on Ajax then for maybe why we think maybe Ajax could. So Sebastian Haller, hopefully they'll remember to include him in the Champions League squad this season, and as well as some other players, maybe to remember to include them. I don't really know what's going on in Amsterdam. Maybe they're just getting distracted by some other things, when making those squad submissions. But all I will say is Ajax, I think, they have a bit more pedigree, a bit more experience, of course, in the Champions League. And so that's why I kind of have them in second. I'm thinking just because of also the youth talent alone, they still have the likes of David Neres. They still have the likes of Anthony, of course. Right. And I know I'm forgetting plenty more of their young talent. I do actually rate plenty of their Argentinian and Mexican international defender as well. Both of them I really rate. They're both fabulous. Again, Tagliafico, it seems like he might just be staying there a long time, maybe even being there forever, practically, Tagliafico, but he's always performed well in the Champions League. I would just say maybe Ajax, who we might forget, but a lot of the players from the past
Feyenoord, didn't he,
there
over the summer. Steven Berghuis, is it Steven Berghuis? Is that how you pronounce his name?
Berghuis. I think he plays. Did he move there from Feyenoord?
He moved from Feyenoord, and then I remember Mohamed Daramy as well, who I only just found out about recently. He's a very quick, nifty little winger. He's also signed for Ajax as well. So they're all you know what Ajax are like, Jack. They've always
thank you for those signings again, Darius. Absolute genius. That helps rest my case even more, because with Berghuis, I think last season he finished something ridiculous. It was like 20 goals and 13 assists in there to visit. And he was, I think he's a left-footed, almost kind of, I would say, similar to even, I wouldn't say that similar, but to a degree, like a right-footed or left-footed inverted winger like Arjen Robben, Berghuis. So I think that's actually, you're right. I didn't even know about that signing. That's a fantastic signing.
I do remember that signing, because I was obviously, I remember him, he played a little bit in the Euros, but I just remember him, like you said, the numbers that he had last season, you sort of see those numbers and you have to sort of think, wow, he's obviously doing okay. He has a good season, because Tadic put those numbers up again in their famous season when they got to the Champions League semi-final, and what he was doing was absolutely ridiculous.
I love Mason Duchamp.
Oh gosh, Tadic for me went from at Southampton he was good, but when he joined Ajax, he hit that level where he was like that cult hero for me. Like that Tadic season where he
still remember that Maradona or Cruyff turn, whatever it was, against Real Madrid. I still remember it to this day.
That 4-1 performance is one of the best performances I've ever seen from anyone in a Champions League game against Real Madrid. So yeah,
and Tadic was fully behind it. I would say he was fully behind it,
100%.
But yeah, so they've got another hipster group for sure.
Really is.
I would say if you're looking for something, and maybe even Darius has described this perfectly here, if you're looking for something that isn't, the big marquee matchups, the big, let's say Gazprom versus, AIA or whatever, big, sponsorship kind of matchups, maybe even oil kind of matchups. This would be, I say, if you're looking for the hipster kind of groups, I would say Group C. And what was it before again? I think it was also then might have been Group E or D as well. Yeah. Let me just go back just to make sure. Yes, Group H actually is the other hipster group, I would say. And also Group G, like you said, is another kind of hipster group. So everybody, I will say the ways that, and Darius said this before me, the ways that the groups have somehow filled out this season, it's actually better than I can remember in a long time. I really am looking forward to it. I
can definitely tell, like match day one or every single match day, there's going to be like times where I'm thinking, what game am I going to watch? Or I'm going to have like one game over on the left-hand side, one game on the right-hand side, trying to watch it, one game on my phone. So, and I mean, to be fair, I think the group stages have improved a lot over the past couple of years, but normally the group stages get a little bit boring. So I'm actually very happy that they're going to, I think throughout all 6 match days, you're going to have entertainment throughout. And the teams and the transfer window, just everything about sort of this season is going to shape up for this Champions League to be a good one. I really think so.
Yeah, well said. And Group D, Real Madrid, Inter Milan, Shakhtar, a team I've always had a huge soft spot for. Really like Shakhtar. And then Sheriff. And I will say, everybody, there will be a video coming out where I will explain Sheriff's, kind of historic run to this position. It's an unbelievable.
Is it Moldovan team?
It's a Moldovan team that have somehow made it. I believe they even knocked out Dinamo Zagreb in their last qualifying match to make it into the Champions League. There will be a bit of a flat cap kind of, I don't know, make like an explained, you might say, or a story on how they got there. But I think this one kind of picks itself, unfortunately. Shakhtar Donetsk, I really do rate them. I've always loved watching them play. They play this beautiful mixture of tiki-taka Brazilian football, as well as like a lot of Ukrainian Enko players that also are being taught the same thing. It's just a beautiful kind of melting pot over there at Shakhtar Donetsk, I would say. But you know, they've had great Champions League performances before, but they're maybe not known for being consistent. I think it's sometime with Shakhtar, just certain games they'll absolutely dominate. Even like before in Inter Milan, you know, they've absolutely, I think that game where Inter Milan with Conte, despite Conte, you know, pulling out the win against Shakhtar, something like Shakhtar had like 70% possession against Inter Milan. It really shows that they are kind of a very funny team, and that a team that maybe should not be overlooked sometimes, I would say, in terms of their technical ability, but they're full of mistakes, I will admit, Shakhtar Donetsk, and they're quite inconsistent. But I would say Real Madrid, Inter Milan, you know, Filippo Inzaghi has started decently for Inter Milan this season. His Champions League form was all right last season. He did take Lazio to the round of 16, but then get kind of humbled, let's say, by Bayern very quickly. But I would say, you know, Inter Milan, Real Madrid, they picked themselves. But Shakhtar Donetsk, I would love to see maybe make a huge Europa League run.
Now, if ever there was going to be a huge shock, or just anyone's predictions just going to go completely like upside down, this will be the group that it's going to happen. I have a really, really like, there's a feeling in me that this group will be the one that everybody's just like, yeah, I wasn't going to predict that. Like Shakhtar either finishing second, Inter either finishing first. I do believe, obviously, sad little Sheriff. Sheriff are probably going to hold a lot of goals, but you know what? I think that genuinely, and this sounds bad, I think they're just going to be happy to be there. So, and you know what? If they have fans again, I just think that if you've got even a couple thousand fans who have never experienced a Champions League night, they're going to make it horrible to go there, and it could be tough going. I don't know how far Moldova is in terms of comparing it to sort of European distances, but all of those things can make a difference. But why I think that this group could be the weird one is I am so impressed with how Inter have started this season. I hope they can continue that form into the Champions League, and if they do, I actually think that they could potentially finish first. And it's Joaquin Correa who really makes me think that they could do it. And it's crazy to say because they lost their best striker. They lost their main guy. And it seems like Lautaro Martinez is picking up from there. And I wasn't a massive fan of Lautaro. Even when he was linked with Tottenham, I wasn't a massive fan of him. But he seems to be able to finish a lot more of his chances now. And that was my main issue with him. He didn't finish all the chances that I expected an elite world-class striker to finish. And that's why I couldn't really call him that. But if he carries on how he's doing, he had a great finish on the weekend. I think Inter actually really could finish first. I really do believe that. And Shakhtar, I mean, Roberto De Zerbi is their manager, who was formerly of Sassuolo, I believe.
Yes.
He is a really good manager. He was doing very, very good things with Sassuolo. I remember
he pulled up a huge upset against Monaco. It must be said. I actually forgot that against Niko Kovac from Monaco, who I would now say maybe someone I maybe have left out, you know, as a potential sacking this summer, because that dropout that they had in the Champions League qualification was a bit. I wouldn't say embarrassing, but it was a bit shocking because they had it in the bag, actually, Monaco, and they didn't really play well in the first leg. And then in the second leg, they outperformed Shakhtar, just caught Shakhtar almost sleeping at the wheel, you might say, in the first half. And then somehow they let them back into the game. Also, it must be said that I even thought the game was over because I had just remembered until the end of the game that the away goals rule had been taken away.
Oh, of course.
And so that's how Shakhtar even got themselves back into it, which also, again, must be said, everybody. The away goals rule, it's tough to say. Usually it benefits the smaller teams, most likely, but there are times when, you know, bigger teams have actually, you know, made it out just on that away goal or whatever, you know.
I remember the Juve, who did Juve play? And they got so lucky with that away goal. Was it? No, they Porto. Even
Porto last season, they lost, you know, to Porto.
Was it? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Was it Porto? It was a Porto Juve
Porto game got the away goal.
Porto went through. Yeah, that was it. Sorry. Porto got very fortunate. And I think that, I don't know how I feel. I think I'm happy with the away goal rule going, because to be honest, I didn't really see the point of it. Like, I don't think it's that much of a difference to sort of, it's almost like you're giving an away goal 2 goals. It almost seems like it's worth 2 goals, and
it is worth 2 goals.
I don't think literally. I don't think it is genuinely worth 2 goals, and I don't think the crowds make that much of a difference. Probably maybe 5-10 of the biggest and biggest clubs and sort of the clubs who have the most famous fans would maybe have that sort of clout to say, yeah, we make a big difference. But yeah, you know what? Teams are going to be a lot more competitive. They're going to go for it a lot more now. So I'm happy about this. But yeah, I genuinely.
So if you were to, I think you said I might have interrupted you, and I apologize.
Yeah, no.
What's that crazy prediction you were going to go for?
I think I'm going to go for. I don't think Shakhtar will get second, but I think they're going to be very, very close. And I think Inter will get first. I think it'll be very, very close between all 3 teams again. I don't think Real Madrid are going to do as well as we think because they've lost too many players, in my opinion, for them to do well. I know they've got Camavinga. That was a great signing. But when you lose Varane, I just think that Nacho and Eder Militao as the centre-back partnership, Varane and Ramos going is massive. And they're going to feel it. And if Hazard and Bale don't really pick up their form and Vinicius and Rodrigo don't sort of explode into these wonder kids that we sort of expected them to be, then I don't know who's going to sort of drag them through this Champions League. Do you know what I mean? So, and Ancelotti's a very intelligent coach, very experienced coach. He's obviously won the Champions League, is it 3 times, I believe. So he knows what he's doing. But I don't know. I'm not convinced by Real Madrid. I'm not. And I just think that Inter, if they carry on their form, will finish first. I do believe that. So I'm going to say Inter first, Real just second, Shakhtar third, and Little Sheriff sadly in fourth.
Would you say maybe with Shakhtar, just to wrap up maybe on Group D, this might actually, bring, I think, a bit of further evidence to this, I think, this nice, crazy prediction you've gone for. But Shakhtar was it last season or a season before, we're in a crazy group, I think, with Inter and Real Madrid before, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
where Shakhtar gave them really good games.
And Gladbach as well. That was the other team in that group.
That's right.
Yeah.
And it went to the last day.
And Gladbach Gladbach did not deserve to go through that group stage. That was robbery in my opinion. So yeah, Shakhtar,
but all of them struggled. If I remember, Real actually looked like they were going to get fourth, and they somehow made it through. Inter did not start well. It was actually Shakhtar was the one that started the strongest, and I think they kind of, if I remember, they just it just fell between their fingers at the end. But everybody, I would say I love Shakhtar, and there's a huge bias towards them that I have, but don't sniff on them. Absolutely don't write them out. They have very, very good capability of upsetting a few teams. But Group E here, Bayern, Barcelona, Benfica, Dinamo Kiev. I will say Bayern, again, is another one of those teams I've always had a bit of a soft spot for, and that's just because I do love the football they play. Most of their players I've always been in love with as well, outside of Spurs. And Barcelona, I would say, is another bias where I really don't like Barcelona. Really, never been a Barca kid, never been a Catalonia fan, and I just feel like it still will probably finish this way, despite Benfica having that actually very interesting. They played Benfica, a bit of background, if anybody who's watching this doesn't know, they played PSV Eindhoven in their UCL qualification game. And I don't remember the name of the coach for Benfica, but he looks like almost like a Back to the Future kind of a character, the Benfica manager. And he had this spectacular just kind of defensive performance against PSV. They were all over them, PSV, but it was a very rigid Portuguese defense, which I feel like, the Portuguese teams are very well known for, especially in the Champions League. And I feel like in the Liga NOS, it's actually very attacking. It's very back and forth. But then when these teams roll into the Champions League, it's like, 2 backs of 4, 2 backs of 4, every man behind the ball. This Benfica manager seems to be very similar to that. And so I would say I think he's going to at least get Europa League because of that, because they're just going to be really stubborn. And I actually would say maybe Benfica might give Barcelona maybe a game or 2 as well, because I bet there's probably a bit of a rivalry there. Maybe that might be a bit unspoken, just, the Portuguese, Spanish rivalry there. But Benfica, I'm going to go for third. Barcelona, maybe, do you feel like they could slip up, maybe just fall into the Europa League and maybe one of these teams take the Champions League spot? But how do you feel about this?
I think that it's going to be difficult for the teams like Benfica and Kiev to sort of, just in terms of quality-wise, to sort of overtake those 2 teams.
The quality gap.
Yeah, I don't think Barcelona are going to do great. I think they'll be fine. I don't actually think that they've got a terrible squad. I think a lot of people sort of thought Barcelona are going to be doom and gloom when Messi leaves, but I actually don't think it's good. It's more like you said, the finances and upstairs that's going to be the issue as opposed to on the pitch. Because
I'm crazy, and I had them as my second place team, I believe. You know, when we made those predictions before in La Liga, I think I had them at second, and still felt a little bit crazy, about that.
Yeah, it is. But then
it's exactly what you're saying, though.
You think that's what I'm saying. You think about it, and it's like Ansu Fati, Pedri, like a Pedri, Busquets, and De Jong centre midfield is a very, very good midfield. And then you've got Fati, Depay, and sadly maybe Braithwaite on one side. If Dembele's fit, Dembele, then and Braithwaite hasn't been awful. He hasn't been terrible, but do you know what I mean? It's Barcelona, but that's not a bad team, and even the defense isn't terrible. So I just think that when you've got players like that, you sort of have to do a good amount. What I'm scared of is a potential, maybe not 8-2, but 6-1, 5-0 happening between Bayern and Barca again, because the way that they played against RB Leipzig on the weekend, Bayern Munich, they seem like they don't care. Like, they just seem like they'll score as many goals as they want. Like,
it's similar to the I would say Julian Nagelsmann is giving me still Hansi Flick vibes from before, where it's just like Bayern. Even in their PSG loss, it was just like there was clearly a huge quality gap even between Bayern and PSG, and Bayern were the one that lost, but you could still tell that Bayern were the team that absolutely
they were missing Lewandowski.
They tried to dominate everybody. It's almost like they just choke every opposition out with possession, pressing, the whole thing. They just want to just practically make it. It's almost like they try to make football not fun.
It's almost hard to watch. I was just about to say it's almost hard. They almost make it hard to watch. It's like, just give these guys a chance, like let them breathe. And again, there'll be no part of me that will ever not like Bayern, because it's like they almost, again, people hate that they take the best players from the teams and whatever, the best managers and stuff, but it's almost a perfectly run club.
But they play the most, I think, beautiful football. I mean,
I'm
amazing.
Very biased
Everything
to say that. It's amazing. And like I said, I love Dortmund to my heart. I have done since 2011. I absolutely love Dortmund, but Bayern for me are one of the best ran teams and just one of the best teams in general. And just to say on Group E, like I said, I think Bayern might potentially win every game in this group, but that's a real historic. When you talk about heritage, like European heritage, proper group, that Group E. So I am looking for, again, we talk about how all the groups have something exciting about them. Sheriff being in Group D, obviously Dortmund and Ajax being in the same group, Chelsea, Juve being in the same group. I think that there's the excitement to come from this group will be the fact that there are three massive, and when I say massive, absolutely massive European clubs in that group. So, and just on Dynamo Kiev again, I actually don't know much about Dynamo Kiev. There's just one player that plays for Dynamo Kiev who I think is absolutely, like, I don't know what it is about him. I remember watching a couple games of Kiev and Ukraine, and Viktor Shigankov. I don't know if you heard of him.
Yeah,
such a, like, I don't know what it is about him. He just really, really, really excites me. So hopefully, I thought he was going to get a move into a top 5 league, but he didn't. So hopefully he can sort of have a better season than I thought he would last season, and he might be able to push on, because I think he's a really, really good talent. So yeah, I'm going to be looking out for, sadly, well, not even sadly, but I'm going to be looking out for every group. But yeah, maybe not as much this group, because I think it will be straightforward, and that's maybe not what everybody wants, but it's Bayern, isn't it? It's Lewandowski. You're going to want to watch them. Like, you're going to want to. Musiala, everybody, you're going to watch them all.
I would say Group E, it's not going to be the most exciting one, but it definitely has something for everyone. It has a bit of that beautiful football and pressing and just dominating football from Bayern, as well. It has, the Cruyff era, and also the new team, and that is Barcelona. In fact, Barcelona is almost becoming very, I would say, I don't know how to say this correctly, but almost like Dutchified, you might say, where it's becoming almost like the Holland national team over there as well, with some of the players, with Depay coming in and Koeman, trying to bring in a bunch of Dutch players as well. So I would just say, Barcelona, Bayern, you got your two heavyweights there, very historic, between each other, as well as some very embarrassing defeats that they've both given each other as well, that Darius touched about. Even Barcelona have given Bayern some very embarrassing defeats in the past. Benfica, very rigid, tough team to play as well. Speaking of Ukrainians, before we get to Dynamo Kiev, Benfica bought Yaremchuk, who I actually really, really rated. I didn't ever really see much of him at Club Brugge or Club Bruges in the Belgian league, or he might have been at Ghent, not Club Bruges. I think he was at KA Ghent, actually. But really, really rate Yaremchuk, because when I watch him in the Euros, I was like, who is this guy? This guy looks fantastic. His touch is brilliant. He has more pace than you might think. He has strength. His finishing is fantastic. And I would say Benfica, that signing of Uremchuk. It just seems to be, they might actually be. They'll be tougher than we think. And as well, I think they have Julian Weigl, who's actually been playing very well there. I think he's become a bit of a...
he was from Dortmund, wasn't he?
Yeah, and I think he's actually fit in really well. So I've seen, he's been playing most of their games there.
Is he defensive midfielder? Does he still play
defensive midfielder? Kind of like a Jorginho kind of player.
I was thinking that's a good comparison, actually,
But like I said, I think there's a bit of everything there. And then for me, a bit personally, I would say I just get to be able to see the Ukrainian talent, all the Yankos everywhere. Like Darius was saying, Zigankov, I really do rate. You'll recognize him as he's like a shaved head, kind of red-haired kind of player. If you're looking for him out there, I don't know what number he wears, but he's a left-footed.
I think he might be number 10,
Might be the number 10 for them. You're right. I know he's left-footed. He's very, very skilled at cutting inside. But I would say I'm just going to be looking for all the Anko talent, all the young Ukrainian talent over there. I just love them. I absolutely love using them.
Ukraine
bring up FIFA. Like that's why I do it. It's just for FIFA reasons. I love bringing in the Ukrainians.
I mean, I was just thinking of Atalanta and Malinovsky, another Ukrainian who... the Ukraine have got a decent team. I can't lie to you.
They're very technical, and that's what people must forget. I mean, maybe we did, and we saw it in the Euros. Is the Ukrainians? They're not known for their pace. They're not known for their, I would say, athleticism or anything like that. But they're just known for just being very technically sound footballers. They actually have all great touches. They actually can hit it from distance. They have good free kick and set piece delivery. They almost, I would say, the Ukrainians kind of play to a version of how the Brazilians would play, I would say.
Probably say you need one Ukrainian in every team, and that would probably benefit a lot of teams if you had a Ukrainian. Genuinely,
every team needs an Anko.
You do need a player like that who sort of might not be the most eye-catching player, but you know what? If any player was going to be Ukrainian, it'd be James Milner. That's the sort of player who's Ukrainian. Just like perfectly solid. Ain't gonna make a mistake that much. 7 out of 10 every single game.
Milner off.
Yeah. They're like what's it called? They're like the Czechs. The Czechs are very similar. Very similar.
I would say so. Yeah. I just have a fascination with also those players as well. I couldn't even imagine what it'd be like to learn how to play football, in Ukraine, considering, the political crisis and the situation over there. I mean, imagine having the touch of Zigankov, while kicking it off a concrete wall there. I mean, unbelievable. I would say the talent they're still producing over there. And that's why I really like Shakhtar. That's why I have a soft spot for them, because they've been ousted from their stadiums in times past. They can't even play at their training ground all the time as well. You just have to have a bit of a soft spot for them, considering all these things, and they're still able to produce world-class talent all the time. I would even say to anybody that has even, I would just say it's often, I would say, before we move on, Darius, Dynamo Kiev, Shakhtar, even actually underrated youth academies, I would say as well. Eastern Europe, I know people kind of sniff over there, but young talent over there is unbelievable. Ferencváros in Hungary, there are tons of teams. I think Ludogorets and other teams in Russia as well. You just have to realize that actually the best youth talent and the best, I think it's something like youth management skills are actually coming out of Ukraine and Russia at the moment. And I think that must be said. But moving on to, I think, the big marquee groups.
Can't believe we've been speaking about all these groups and we haven't even spoke about these two groups.
This is where it gets hot. This is where it gets hot and heavy. Wow. And I do apologize to everybody for the very cheesy fire emotions, but I just couldn't help myself, because it just like, you just look at these and you're just like, wow. I'm going to go to Group B actually here and not go from left to right. I'm going to go right to left here. Group B. Atletico, I would say, I think they're still going to finish first, because while I haven't rated them this season, and I think they've really struggled and not, I think they should be playing a lot better than they have. I have such a big soft spot for the all black suit from Diego Simeone. Oof. That was just the steel in his eyes, as well. It just is, there's nothing better. There's nothing better, as well as seeing Atletico matched up in a group with Liverpool again. It's just going to be, taking it from David here, it's just going to be good crack, and I'm just looking forward to it. And I don't even know how this is going to finish out, to be honest, Darius. Like, these are all 4 historic teams of Champions League. AC Milan have made this big resurgence. Let us remind you, they're kind of back to a bit of a higher pedigree of football. They've kept the majority of their star talent from last season as well. That must be said. And they had a fantastic season, AC Milan. They just weirdly set themselves up so high and then just fell really hard. And I would say even at their Man United Europa League game, I think they were the better team in both legs as well. AC Milan. I think they were really unlucky to lose out to Man United in the Europa League last season. AC Milan, I think, are just going to be, it's not like they're going to think of this as, kind of, whatever they'll get, they'll be happy. But I would say AC Milan are going to be absolutely going for Champions League round of 16, or they're going to have to get that Europa League spot. And if they get that Europa League spot, they're definitely going to try to win it. So all the teams should not be sniffed at here. Before I let Darius in, with Porto, I'm not too sure actually how Porto's team looks this season. I don't really know any signings that they've made. I'm not really entirely sure about even some of the talent over there. I know there's one guy named Taremi that's very, very talented over there. I think he's a striker.
Did he score? Yeah, he scored a really good header. I can't remember who he is against.
I think he's even that player that everybody supposedly, has rated as being some, big up and coming talent as well. I've been seeing these odd rumors for Spurs. There's some Porto player over there that, some huge talent that, they're waiting to give some 70 million bid for or something like that. Absurd. I don't know. It's all paper talk, maybe. It's all paper talk, maybe. But I would say Porto, in comparison to Benfica, I think actually Benfica might have a stronger chance of maybe making it out or getting something this season in terms of Europe than Porto. But I'm not entirely sure. But AC Milan, Liverpool, and Atletico, I think the big call could be maybe Liverpool could maybe drop to Europa League, but I don't think so. I think Europa League. I think Liverpool have been fantastic this season. I've put them as even my second place team in our Europe's top 5 leagues, top 6 predictions. I put them as my second team to get second place in Premier League. I do rate Jurgen Klopp. I do rate Liverpool. I don't like them, but I just have to rate them. And what do you feel like? Do you feel like Liverpool get first, third, Atletico? Take it away, Darius.
If it wasn't Simeone and Atleti, then I'd say that Liverpool would win, but they don't know how to play against them. Simeone's got Jurgen Klopp.
Jurgen Klopp was even crying after the game, as we saw against Simeone.
Yeah, I'll never ever forget Marcos Llorente and Alvaro Morata coming on and doing what they did. That was iconic, in my opinion. One of the best moments in Champions League history. So that really shut up Anfield. I couldn't believe it. Genuinely one of the best moments. It was amazing. And also
at Anfield as well.
People are forgetting 2005 final recreated Liverpool AC Milan again.
Oh, wow.
So there's history there. I'm telling you, man, this one of the best group stages I've ever seen in terms of the Champions League. And I think that this group, you know what? I think it's harder than Group A. I think this is the hardest group.
Wow.
In terms of all the teams, I think you're right in your prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if that wasn't the prediction, if you know what I mean. Like I could see Liverpool finishing first. I could see AC Milan with players like Giroud and Ibrahimovic in your strike partnership. I can, even if they're both fine wine in sort of their age, I still think they're going to be able to provide so much. Rafael Leao are going to be able to provide so much for that team. So I thought that Yacine Adli had signed permanently, but he's gone back on loan to Bordeaux. So he's not at AC Milan this season. If Yacine Adli was there at AC Milan, they got a real good team. So
yeah,
I just think that Porto, again, quality, it will be the quality that puts them forth. I think they'll have probably maybe a more defensive tactic to sort of maybe annoy the teams. I think that Liverpool will be able to deal with them. I think Atleti will get annoyed by Porto because they'll sort of play similar to how Atleti might want to play. Even though Atletico have played they played that 4-3-3 now, haven't they? Including last season as well. So Simeone's been known to sort of change his tactics up now. But I just think that Atletico Madrid squad is absolutely ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. Just the 3 sign. I know we spoke about it in our earlier video, but
no.
Rodrigo de Paul, Antoine, and now you can say Antoine Griezmann as well. Rodrigo de Paul, Antoine Griezmann, and Matthias Cunha coming in. That is genuinely ridiculous. To add on top of Joao Felix, Luis Suarez, Thomas Lemar, who seems to have found form, Marcos Llorente, who had an absolutely amazing season. Trippier had a great season.
Carrasco was also Simeone's
Carrasco
man.
had a great season. Oh, mate, honestly. Angel Correa, I still think has a lot more to bring to the team. That is a real team. And Koke obviously is a captain. It's a very, very, very good team. And Atletico Madrid might be, I don't think I can call them dark horses because they're La Liga champions and they've got such a good team now. So I don't think I can call them dark horses. But I think that they'd probably be, if any team were to get into the semi-final, and it wasn't Dortmund, that I think will be a surprise. I think it'll be Atletico Madrid. I think that I think that they have. If you want to talk about experience in the Champions League, they've been all the way to the final. And again, if it wasn't for sort of Ramos scoring an absolute memorable header, then they might have actually done quite well, or now they might have actually won that. So I just think that Atletico Madrid. While I do, obviously Liverpool is Liverpool. They've won the Champions League 3 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago now. I just don't know. I don't know. I'm not.
Well, this might be their last opportunity, you would say, with that old squad from before to be able to do it.
And I feel like I'm about to contradict myself and say Liverpool, Anfield, Champions League nights, it's sort of extremely difficult to get a result there. But I just don't know. I feel like there's a lasting thing. Honestly, I just because it's Atletico Madrid, I feel like that 3-2 really is going to sit with them. And I don't think they're going to be able to topple Atletico. But into the into the knockouts, I think Liverpool will become a different beast, and I think they'll probably do quite well, especially if Salah's scoring like he is at the moment. So, and sadly, Harvey Elliott, while he might not have been a mainstay in that team, isn't part of that team, and I'm really, really, really heartbroken by his injury this weekend and obviously today. So I just want to say, obviously, just get well soon with Harvey Elliott. But yeah, no, Liverpool definitely 100%. Will be a better team in the knockouts, I believe. I think that just them having a history of AC Milan will be a tough game, and them having that history of Atletico Madrid will make it tough for them, but they'll be able to persevere.
Do you feel like Atletico, before we finish Group B here, do you feel like Atletico almost has, and Simeone even has that almost Jose, like, everyone against us, or, us against them kind of mentality 100%. As well, that also must be said.
Oh, yeah. I want them to, again, I would love Simeone to win a Champions League. I think he deserves to win a Champions League.
But that helps in the Champions League, I guess. What I'm saying is, they have that. Of course, they have that shithousery. Of course, they have that doggedness, that dirtiness. But it is that us against them, or kind of mentality. Where we're the ones that everybody wants to lose. However, I don't know how they spin that, but they seem to. Simeone and Jose. They somehow make it. Where all the players just seem to think that they just put a chip on everybody's shoulder somehow.
They're the annoying little brother, aren't they? They're the annoying little brother of La Liga, and obviously everybody when you look at the Spanish teams, they show respect to Atletico Madrid, but they're sort of seen as this team that aren't going to threaten you, and you sort of have to break down them. And Real Madrid and Barcelona being them two, they're not seen it. I think they are sort of disrespected almost, because they do very well in the Champions League most times. So I just think it's getting over the line. Sadly, I just think there's too many good teams, and they're in every single season they've done well or gotten closer and closer. There's always been an extremely elite team that's there in the Champions League. So unfortunately, if things go their way, it could happen. But if we look at Group A, I mean, look at the two teams that are in Group A. How can you sort of predict Atletico to be getting anywhere when these two are out here battling like this? So
I would say then in Group A, I'm just going to let you keep going here, Darius. What do you make of Leipzig? I put them at second, and Man City, I feel like it might be just that Pep Guardiola. It might be that Pep Guardiola kind of. This is the funny thing, actually. I would contradict myself and say I actually think Pep Guardiola does quite well in the group stages of the Champions League. It is when it reaches the knockouts that he just seems to just bottle it himself, just overthink things, maybe just think about, the scarves and, the turtlenecks a bit too much and not the football. But all I would say is I just have this odd feeling that Man City might have a bit of an embarrassment this season, might come in the Premier League, or it might come in the Champions League. It's more likely that it probably come in the Champions League. And so that's why I'm having Man City drop to the Europa League. I think that would be unbelievable. Like that, just seeing Man City even in the Europa League just would be insane. And so if I'm going to go for a crazy, crazy prediction, that is going to be my crazy prediction. So Darius, you can absolutely stomp all over it if you like, but this is going to be my crazy one.
Are Manchester City as hungry as they were last season, or as hungry as it seemed last season for that Champions League?
Or is the squad unity? It doesn't even seem like the unity is there even in the squad to a degree.
Yeah, and I don't think Leipzig are going to do a craziness, only because I think that they'll be a little bit too naive. I think if they sort of took an approach that it's not sort of it is showing respect, but I think that Jesse Marsch is one of those managers where he will put his philosophy and the way he wants to play ahead of everything. And he's a smart man, don't get me wrong, but I think that he'll always want to put on a show and he'll always want to sort of play entertaining football. He did that against Liverpool, and they did very, very well, and they sort of made a name for themselves doing that. So you can go one of two ways. I might say,
just to back myself up then with Jesse Marsch, you know, and I'm glad that you set me up for this, but last season as well, Salzburg had a very good Champions League group run, and they gave Bayern a very good game. And I believe there was another tough team in Bayern's group as well that season, and they gave that team as well, you know, a bit of a knock. And it just shows that maybe Jesse Marsch, while he hasn't started off, you know, the Bundesliga too hot, I would say, if anything, where he were to, you know, surprise a few, it might be in that Champions League. And just because the Salzburg last season in their groups were a lot scarier and a lot tougher.
I was going to say, he seems like a Champions League guy. I think the Champions League's probably made for him almost. It's sort of those nights and that special. He seems like he very much gets his team going. He works on energy. He works on sort of that the team fighting and working hard. So if he can get them riled up for those special nights, and again, if Dominik Szoboszlai is fit and playing, Leipzig look like a completely different team. They look much better. I think he's honestly
best free kick taker, maybe Europe's top 5 leagues. I would say Szoboszlai.
Just strike of a ball in general. I think De Bruyne is probably one of the only players that comes close to him. Some of the brace he scored a couple of weeks ago was disgraceful, absolutely disgraceful.
He was waving the wand. I actually saw from behind. It almost seemed like he put a remote control in the ball. Actually,
horrible. Like how you can actually kick a ball and the ball move like that. It's wild. And I think back to him being pivotal to Hungary getting into the Euros and sort of putting that nation on his back, a very, very historic nation.
Descendant of Puskás, maybe.
It's a lot of pressure. So yeah, I think him mixed with Jesse Marsch. Again, Hwang went to Wolves now. I thought Hwang was going to stay. I'm so sad Hwang didn't stay at Leipzig.
Yeah.
Andre Silva obviously is there. So I just think that Leipzig have got enough in their squad to do well. It's just look at the two teams around them. I can't. I'm sorry, Jack. I can't predict Man City to finish above them. Man City to finish below them, because
I know this is going to be the one where I feel like it's a bit embarrassing for me. I'm going to be humbled by it.
The players that they've got, I could see it. I could see Leipzig either beating City or losing 6-0. Like I could see them beating them 1-0 or 2-1, or getting absolutely smacked 6-0. And that's what scares me, and that's what I fear will happen to them. And you can't get beat by those two teams and then only get points against Bruges and go through. So I don't know. What I want to see is PSG City. That for me is like, out of everything in the group stage that we spoke about, that's the big thing for me, because I thought we wouldn't see that until quarters, semis, maybe even the final. To see that in the group stage, sort of after what happened last season as well, and the fact that Man City got into PSG's head rent-free. It was hilarious to watch. They looked like petulant children when City dominated. It was almost embarrassing, to be fair. And when I watched that game, something in me said, are PSG ever going to win the Champions League? Because
there's a Barry Glendenning, an Irish Guardian reporter, and he's saying exactly. Sorry, he says the exact same thing about you're about to say.
Yeah, I was just saying that it's how I feel with Tottenham, and when we get into anywhere near a final, it's like I never ever think we're going to win.
Cursed.
Yeah, like I've been saying this for ages, and people have laughed at me, and people have started to see the light. We are cursed, Tottenham, and I think PSG might have taken Pochettino, or Pochettino might have taken some of that curse over and cemented it at PSG now, because they weren't doing very well in the Champions League before he came, and I think they'll get out the group stage. Messi, Hakimi, Donnarumma, all of them being there, yes, great. But I think when it comes to it and it gets to the actual crunch time of the semis and finals, I think Bayern Munich, if they came up against PSG, would almost decimate them. I think that's how much I think PSG mentally on. I don't know what it is. I can only explain it to be a curse, because there's too much talent in that team to say it's the players and it's the manager. So I have to put it down to a curse. But if I was to see a surprise, and if I wanted to see a surprise, oh my gosh, I would 100% rather see Leipzig in that knockout stages than Man City over everything, bro. I would rather see Leipzig. I'm happy with that.
Even that PSG, Bayern, kind of game that you were saying could happen in, the group stages. I will say, to maybe further that PSG curse, even I saw an interview with Kimmich from Bayern, and he was asked, which team if you could pick any team, to beat, or something like just right away, like what team do you have a grudge against, I think was really the question. And he said PSG right away.
Oh,
and he said, why is that? And it was even funny because the translation was a bit off or something, because he said something in German. It was "Es ist offensichtlich," which means like it's obvious. And it was translated as like no reason. And it's just a very, because I think that was even funnily enough done by the Bayern translator there, because they didn't want to make it too controversial or too hot and heavy or something from Kimmich. But you could even just see in his eyes like the fire from how much, like I said, Bayern absolutely dominated PSG in both of those legs. I don't any of the logic where people are saying that PSG deserved it. I mean, maybe they do if they have, Mbappe just chasing after every long ball and, pacey. It just, again, like that's the way you want to win football with a 400 million pound, billion pound team. I mean, be my guest, but, you think with a team like that, you would like to play better football. And so
I was just going to say, based on that's this super team that they've built, what do you think?
They still don't play the best football, in my opinion. That's
I was going to say, because everybody that I spoke to sort of have got PSG down as their favourites just because of the players that they've brought in and the team that they've got. Do you think that that's going to make this difference that everybody's claiming? Obviously, Ramos having the experience. Do you think that they're going to actually come in and make this impact, or do you think that it's going to be a case of the same? I think it's genuinely, even with Messi, I think it's going to be a case of the same, a semi-final finish or a final plunder.
It's funny. I would answer that in two ways. What I would say is the midfield has often been criticized before at PSG, but I think you could actually look at that both ways. I would actually say it's been the midfield that has saved PSG in a lot of their Champions League games, because these are the guys that are not the star names. They're not the star players in the squad that, and so they're kind of being asked to basically do the work of three players that can't be asked on 300,000 pound wages, to run for their club, run for their team. And so Paredes, Ander Herrera, I believe Idrissa Gana Gueye as well, who had a fantastic game against Bayern, I will say, Idrissa Gana Gueye. But you think about those three players, they're not star names, they're not starlets. They've actually kind of have to put in a shift, put in a job for the squad. And if PSG don't maybe put in those players for these games against the bigger teams, for somebody that might just, let's say, do that role that no one wants to do, maybe as even you might know, clean up that table or whatever that no one wants to do, or whatever it might be. I've been there before, take out the trash and whatever it may be. It's just that those kind of people in the squad or in your team, you need them. No matter how big your starlets are, you need somebody in the squad that does a job that no one else wants to do. And I think that's what PSG is actually, funny enough, like almost replaced. They've put too many players in the squad that are starlets, that are star power, that are, so full of themselves that you might say there's not really a humble player in the squad that will just keep centered, keep low, and, maybe just do their job. And I would say it might then reach to what you were talking about earlier, where PSG have a little bit of a hissy fit again against a certain team, or start lashing out, start throwing in bad challenges and whatever, and maybe hurt themselves like they have in years past. But it is a good shout for a semifinalist, of course. I would actually say, despite all I've just said, I still see PSG probably making the semifinals. They, even in times past when they didn't deserve to get to the semifinals, they just did. They just made it, because when you have Mbappe and Neymar and you have 28% possession and you just launch it forward, I mean, they will be able to take that chance eventually. But everybody, I will say this has been an absolute cracker of Champions League group predictions. We are going to move on in the future, everybody, where there will be some watch-alongs coming up for some of the games that I'll be picking. It's going to get a lot heavier over here at Flat Cap Hero Talk, as I'll say. There's going to be a 4-part series I'm going to be coming out with, and I would like a bit of Darius's help on it whenever he can, on, basically Champions League kind of semifinalists. I'm going to be predicting, of course, they might run into each other ahead of time, but that's why I figured I should pick 4 teams that I think would either make the semifinals at least, or the final, if not win it. And that's why it's going to be lots of Champions League stuff coming up here on Flat Cap Hero Talk. But Darius, honestly, there's no better person. Believe me, there's no better person.
Oh, man.
I mean, I would say, of course, in the Spurs fan community, but I would say just in general, you've been absolute class. As always, you absolutely killed it in our Europe's top 6 league predictions video. And in this one, you really have made this one just honestly a blast. I feel like the time flew by for me. But Darius, where can they find you? How can they find you? And where will you be?
I'm gonna be everywhere. Honestly, I I enjoy coming on channels that sort of where we can discuss things and learn from each other. I always say that I always get my information from everyone around me. I don't really like to, obviously everybody does their research, but I'm always asking people questions before I sort of am searching for answers. So just to have these discussions with people like you, Jack, it's only making me sort of learn more. So I can't help, and I can't say nothing else but thank you for having me on this channel, and I'll always be on here. But if you ever do want to check me out, I'm on Paxton Road TV, as you know. I'll be on the Irish Hotspur channel with yours truly himself on Answer Me on a Wednesday, and also I am on Twitter as well as at Darius3K. So wherever you want to find me, you can find me, and I will happily have a conversation with you about why Harry Winks needs to leave Tottenham tomorrow. But yeah, thank you, Jack. I had a great time.
No problem, Darius. And I would say, David and I, we can't big up Paxton Road enough. It's practically, it's, I would say, my favorite Spurs channel as well. I just love watching everybody over there, from Mike to Sid to you. It's just all the best personalities, all the best opinions as well. It's just, you guys have really good, solid debates. And it's just, again, anybody in the Harris Army or in the Irish Hotspur who doesn't know about Paxton Road yet, just know that it's the channel that David and I absolutely rate the highest, I would say. And so everybody, Darius will be here plenty over here on Paxton Road, as well as Shane will be on Irish Hotspur as well. But please, people, check out Paxton Road. They're absolute class. Like I said, and I'll say it again, it's, it's almost like, David and I are almost trying to steal away, their talent, more or less. It's almost like a Man City Bayern situation where we can't be bothered, to create our own. We're just going to have to buy it from elsewhere, kind of thing. The Paxton Road boys are just honestly unbelievable. And so all I can say is, if you need, more kind of class Spurs content apart from us at Irish Hotspur, I would say Paxton Road is just,
thank you, bro.
They're so good. I would say I can't even get around to watching too much Spurs content. I'm going to shut up soon, but all I can say, and have a bit of a fanboy moment, but all I can say is I don't watch too much other Spurs content, but when I do, it is absolutely Paxton Road first. And that's why Darius and Shane and others are so much featured on these channels. So, I can't rate them enough, but really do appreciate everybody for watching this one. Again, the Europe's top 6 league predictions will be linked in this in case you want to see Darius again on this channel. There will be seeing Darius in the future.
Amazing channel, by the way. It is, honestly, I know we'll probably have a lot of Spurs fans here, but we need to get some more people who don't like Spurs and just enjoy talking football, because I think a lot of people will enjoy what we have to talk about, and sort of just being able to sort of conversate about things that aren't always Tottenham, and just because I enjoy football. First and foremost, I enjoy football, and I always say that to people. Since I've played football, I've always enjoyed watching other teams and stuff like that. So, and you can only learn more from watching more. So as much football as I can watch is what I want to do. So being able to discuss it with Jack, and hopefully to more people, will be the best way that I can possibly be happy. So honestly, everybody just subscribe to Flatcap Eurotalk. It is going to be the best. It's going to be Flatcap Eurotalk and Eurofootball Daily. That's going to be the two that everyone's going to do. That's the aim. That's the dream.
It is the aim. It is the goal. It is the goal. But Darius, I really do appreciate that, actually, because that's what I would say is anybody, Spurs fan, if you have that, that gunner or, that Chelsea fan, they just kind of feel like you can't connect with, because, you want to send them the Spurs content, but they don't want to watch it. So you might as well just give them, maybe find that common ground. I would say, almost that neutral ground. And hopefully that would be flatcapeurotalk. I would say to you, though, it is still, being led by mostly Spurs fans. So you do know you have that home game advantage to a degree. But everybody, I would say, like Darius had said, recommend it to your friends that are not Spurs fans. Please recommend it to everyone that would just enjoy a bit of European content. But that'll be all for now. As Darius said, please like and subscribe down below. Please like and subscribe to Paxton Road, which will be in the subscription down below. And Darius and I will be seeing you.